If you're new to whiskey, you should be exploring different categories and figuring out what styles actually appeal to you. So today, we're picking one beginner-friendly bottle from 8 major whiskey categories. These aren't necessarily the most expensive or rarest bottles, they're simply great introductions to what each style of whiskey is all about.
When someone asks for beginner whiskey recommendations, most lists look exactly the same, but not this one. And we're gonna taste each one along the way to explain exactly why they made the list.
Before we jump in, I want to remind you guys that if you're looking for soft, flattering, and comfortable whiskey-inspired teas, check out our merch shop. We have awesome designs, and if you're looking for unique whiskeys, exclusive barrel picks, or some of our favorite craft bottles, head over to barrelhunters.com. Link is down in the description below. Now, let's start with our list. Our first category is Irish whiskey, and we're starting there because I generally like to begin tastings like this one with lighter, more delicate styles before working my way towards the bigger, bolder flavors.
Irish whiskey is also one of the easiest categories for beginners to fall in love with. It's typically known for being incredibly approachable, with softer fruit notes, a buttery mouthfeel, and less of that intense spice or oak that can turn people away from whiskey early on.
Our pick is Bushmills Black Bush, and I think it's one of the best values in the entire Irish whiskey category. Unlike standard Bushmills Original, Black Bush contains a much higher percentage of whiskey that's been matured in Oloroso sherry casks, and that extra sherry influence adds a tremendous amount of richness and complexity. Oh, it's that buttery note, man, and that sherry, I'm getting that sherry on there as well.
And there's a faint sherry for me in the back, which I appreciate. Sherry's not normally one of my favorite notes, but I think it does work pretty well here because there's a balance. There's a dark and a bright, and they're working together. It's making a really nice combination of flavors there.
Yeah, I mean, for a $25 bottle of goodness, Irish whiskey.
Heck yeah.
This thing smells like it has some deep flavors in there. You get that butter, you get the light hint of that wine note from the sherry, and like this sort of green apple note there, and like kind of lingering in the back.
Yes.
This is very nice. It doesn't taste like cheap whiskey.
No, it does not.
You know, Jameson is not as bad as we sometimes give it credit for.
I actually like Jameson quite a bit. I mean, it's not a bottle that I reach for on a regular basis. I think simply because of the fact that it is very quiet, it's very subtle, but there are things in there that make it a good sip. This, on the other hand, speaks with a much broader voice. It speaks with just much more volume. I think it's a more easily understandable whiskey if you're truly trying to kind of experience the whiskey rather than just have something that has booze in it.
And that's what we're doing here. We're trying to taste things that are good for beginners that want to really get into whiskey, not just throw a frat party and get everybody drunk. And for the price, if you want to know what Irish whiskey is all about, Black Bush is the way to go before you try Jameson, and even before you try something like Redbreast 12, which is a fantastic Irish whiskey. It's also a lot more expensive. It's about 3 or 4 times as much as the Black Bush. So if you're just dipping your toes into the waters of Irish whiskey, I would say start with Bushmills Black Bush, and you won't regret it. We started with Irish whiskey, so it's only natural that we go with Scotch next. A lot of people think all Scotch is smoky, but that's really only one corner of the entire Scotch world.
Scotch is very diverse, and if you watch our latest video where we rank all the Scotch regions, you'll see how different and polarizing they are. But if you're new to whiskey, you want approachable. And there are very few Scotch whiskeys that are more approachable than Glenmorangie 12.
It's matured in American oak bourbon barrels before spending additional time in sherry casks, giving it just a little more richness than your typical Highland Scotch, while still keeping that elegant character Glenmorangie is known for. Oh, dude. Quintessential Scotch right here.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you get so many fruity notes in there. You get some peach. I really enjoy the orange and the peach note that it has. It's very fruity. It's a little floral and very enjoyable. It's not smoky at all. If you're not looking for a smoky Scotch,
not a touch.
This is perfect for you, you know?
Just for a point of reference, my wife, not a smoky or peaty whiskey drinker of any kind, and she likes this quite a bit.
This is what Scotch is all about. You get this velvety feel in your tongue, and then it just sort of morphs into that malted barley. You're getting some of that malt in there. You're getting that fruit. It's very fruit forward. It's very citrusy.
Very true, very true. And like you touched on the malt, but I think also there's something to be said for, it's not a super malt heavy. Like it doesn't have a strong, I would say like chocolatey, malty presence. It's a little bit there. There's a hint of it. Mostly on the finish. This Scotch relaxes me.
There you go.
It just puts me at ease.
Ah.
It's a warm hug that doesn't come with any of the kind of the normal things that I would associate to bourbons that do some of the same stuff. It's a very different kind of experience. I'm in love with this thing.
Yeah. Oh, there you go, man. You made it sound so erotic, and I love it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Next up, we've got Japanese whiskey. Japanese whiskey was inspired by Scotch, so there are a lot of similarities there, but they've developed their own style over the years, and it has garnered a lot of attention.
If bourbon is often bold and sweet, Japanese whiskey tends to be much more restrained. Nothing is trying to dominate the glass, and all of the flavors work together. And that's what makes it such a great category for someone who's just getting into whiskey.
Our pick is Suntory Toki Black. It's approachable, well-balanced, and gives you a really good introduction to what Japanese whiskey is all about without spending a fortune or chasing something that is allocated. Man, look at the color on this thing. It's so light. And it's probably because Japanese whiskey tends to use previously used barrels like bourbon or sherry casks, and it doesn't pull as many colors as it typically would if it was a brand new charred oak cask.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that they're not adding coloration to this to make it appear like a darker, higher age thing than it actually is. I think it makes it a more honest approach to a Japanese whiskey that has a little bit more of a bold punch to it.
Oh, I get so much like floral notes and a little bit of peat.
I don't get peat. I get like a seawater thing more than peat.
I could ride the wave of the seawater.
All right, there we go. Surf it up. So that's not what anybody says who's surfing. Hang 10? I don't know. I'm not a surfer, clearly. I avoid the sun. So I don't know what any of that stuff's about. I mean, it's definitely floral. There's a delicate botanical thing happening.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not a whole lot of wood notes in this. You get a lot more of the floral notes. I get some tea notes in this. There's that herbaceousness. There's a little bit of earth, but not a whole lot. Just a slight hint. I do get a tiny little bit of peat, but not a lot. It's just like a nice little wisp of smoke in a sea of flowers, and it's right next to the beach somewhere. This is very comforting, it's very enjoyable. I do get a little wisp of that smoke that I think they intended to put in there, but it's not overwhelming. It's not a peated whiskey by any means, but it does have a little wisp of that barbecue smoke-like sort of note.
I think you nailed it with the barbecue note. I think that's absolutely the smoke element that I'm detecting is, it's not meaty, it's the experience of being near someone who's cooking meat.
Do you know what I'm getting from this more so than smoking meat?
Yeah, tell me.
It's somebody taking scallops and putting them on a barbecue grill and just grilling those suckers. And the smell that you get from the scallops getting barbecued, that's what I'm getting here. And I'm very much enjoying this. This is fantastic.
I'm with it. I like that.
Now, if you want to try something that doesn't have any peat at all, I would say try the Suntory Whiskey Toki, not the black. So the black has a little wisp of smoke, but the Suntory Whiskey Toki does not have any peat at all, and I would recommend that if you're trying to avoid peat altogether. Now we're crossing to America, baby. We are talking bourbon. After tasting Irish whiskey, Scotch, and Japanese whiskey, this is gonna be a pretty big shift. Bourbon is generally richer, sweeter, and more oak-driven thanks to one very important rule. It has to be aged in brand new charred oak barrels.
That new oak makes a huge difference. It pulls out all those classic bourbon flavors of vanilla, caramel, and brown sugar that people typically associate with American whiskey.
Most people think we're gonna go with Buffalo Trace or Wild Turkey 101 or even Maker's Mark, but nope, not today. Hit 'em, Jim. Hit 'em with that gospel.
You got it. Our pick for beginners is Old Grandad Bonded. And the reason why we don't go with those bottles is because I actually think Old Grandad Bonded does a better job of teaching someone what traditional bourbon is all about. At 100 proof, it's flavorful without being overwhelming. And because it's a high rye bourbon, it introduces just a little bit of spiciness alongside all that classic sweetness.
Oh, that fruit note is coming back and hitting me in the face.
On the nose for me, I get roasted peanut husk.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of oak that I was missing from the other ones that we were trying because this is, again, brand new charred oak barrels.
Yep.
You don't get that from anywhere else in the world, but there's a lot of sweetness and fruit notes in there as well. I do get some of the peanut notes as well, but it's kind of like peanut layered in like strawberry jam.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. I mean, I don't think that's a real thing, unfortunately, but I would love it if it was a real thing.
It's almost like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. if you want bourbon with those classic bourbon notes, 100 proof, so it gives you a little bit of that heat, this is the way to go.
That's your guy. That's the one. Surprisingly for me, what hits first is that fruit note on the palate. And then after that fruit note, there's a wave of kind of a more of a peanutty, nutty, drier, almost salty thing. But it's still, there's a heavy dose of sugar kind of sweetness behind it.
Yeah.
It's really nice. It's almost, I mean, would you call this a dessert bourbon?
I wouldn't go as far as calling it a dessert bourbon. There's some that are sweeter. It's especially if it's not even, you know, finished and sort of cast, that gives it more of those sweet notes. But I would say that it is a very enjoyable, like, you know, everyday pour.
Right.
If it's a little cold outside and you want something to kind of warm your chest up a little bit, this one is perfect for that. You get a little bit of those cherry or strawberry notes. You get that peanut and that dried peanut, because I get what you're saying. It's that sort of, it tastes different, you know, and I get that dry peanut note. It's very, very pleasant. If you want to veer into American whiskey, specifically bourbon, this has all the quintessential notes of a traditional bourbon, of it being American all the way. It's bonded. It has to follow all these rules and regulations to be bonded, including being aged exclusively in a bonded warehouse. So this isn't just any run-of-the-mill bourbon. This speaks to the American culture. So if that's something that you really want to try and you want to get yourself into, definitely Old Grandad Bonded is the way to go. Next up is Tennessee whiskey. Now, at first glance, you might think this belongs in the bourbon category. In a lot of ways, it does. Tennessee whiskey follows nearly all of the same production rules as bourbon, but there's one important difference: the Lincoln County process. Before the whiskey goes into the barrel, it's slowly filtered through maple charcoal. And that extra step helps mellow the spirit and gives Tennessee whiskey its own unique personality.
We could have talked about Jack Daniel's Old No. 7, but you've probably already tried it. So what's the point? Instead, our pick is Blue Note Juke Joint, and I think it's one of the most underrated bottles in the entire category. There's a bit of there's a red fruit thing happening for sure. I can't tell if it's strawberry or cherry.
I get a lot more like burnt caramel notes in this, and oak.
That's there too.
That's what I'm getting. I'm actually getting a lot more rye spice in this, even though it's not a rye.
That is because this is a high rye bourbon. There's a 21% rye element to the mash bill of this bourbon, meaning it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% corn, 21% rye, and then some other percent of malted barley. And it smells fantastic.
This does. I mean, you can smell a little bit of the proof, so we're cheating here a little bit because we have the uncut version of the Blue Note Juke Joint. This one is full proof, it's barrel proof. And the one that we're recommending is the regular Blue Note Juke Joint, which is hovering around the 90s proof. This one is a little bit higher proof, but it's the same mash bill, it's the same whiskey. It's just that this one comes straight from the barrel into the bottle that we're tasting right now.
And with the lower proof, and you're probably gonna get a little bit more of the spice notes, the vanilla and caramel kind of elements there. Like it's gonna be, you're gonna get less of that kind of like jammy, fruity element to it. With this one in particular, I get a little bit of like a maybe borderline banana Foster on the nose.
Okay.
Is that maybe I'm shooting some weird ones in the dark here, but.
No, I don't think you're shooting any weird ones in the dark, Jim. I think that you're on point. I think that you're on point with that. I think that the charcoal mellowing gives it some of those sort of banana nut notes.
Thank you for not calling me out for being a weird shooter.
I think whatever you're shooting is...
I gave you plenty of opportunity there, and you just passed right by it, so. That's real good. Similar to the Old Grandad Bonded, there is a strong nut element to the palate here. But I think, unlike the Old Grandad, there's a much stronger, like, red fruit thing happening here. The Old Grandad bottle was a little bit more, it was fruity, but they were less dark fruits. This is like dark red fruits. I'm getting cherries, getting like macerated strawberries. The thing that I think this one does beyond something like Jack Daniel's, it's just, it tastes a little bit more curated. If you're really trying to pay attention to what the Lincoln process does for a whiskey, there's no better example of that in my mind than something like the Blue Note.
Again, to me, if you want to know what Tennessee whiskey is all about without trying Jack Daniel's Old No. 7, I think Blue Note is the way to go. There's not many more reliable Tennessee whiskeys out there like Blue Note Juke Joint. So if you want something that's a little less traditional but still gives you all those quintessential Tennessee whiskey notes, Blue Note Juke Joint is the way to go. Uncut or otherwise, I think both are excellent bottles. Next up is rye whiskey. Rye can be described as spicy, and while it can be, it also can be bold and complex. The baking spice and pepper notes typically associated with rye whiskey can help enhance the experience when it's done right. And for our suggestion, we have a pick that you're probably not expecting.
Our pick is A. Overholt, and I think it's one of the best introductions to rye whiskey you can buy. This distillery has been around for more than 200 years. It's incredibly affordable, and most importantly, it lets the grain do the talking. It's not flashy, but it has a classic rye profile.
Oh, those are those rye notes that you would expect from a rye. You're getting a lot of that herbaceousness. You're getting that mint note in there.
But it's so much more earthy than that to me.
You're getting a lot more earth. I was getting there, Jim.
A lot more. I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. I apologize. But like a modern rye in my mind is much more mint forward.
Okay.
This to me is much more. It's like damn near root beer.
Yes, I get a lot of root beer notes on this thing.
There's that element of this to me that reminds me of like a cream soda.
Yes.
Like cream soda, but like the rooty element. It's simple.
Yeah.
It's not a complex nose.
No.
But it's unctuous. You like that word?
I like that a lot.
That is for me what this conjures. There's
Yeah.
an unctuous note there that I think is very nice.
So on the palate, I'm not getting as much root beer in this, but what I am getting is quintessential rye.
Yes.
I am getting those rye notes that you would expect from a rye whiskey. You get the herbaceousness, you get the earth, you get those baking spices in there.
Yep.
I'm getting a little hint of nutmeg and a little bit of black pepper. And then the finish starts kind of evolving more into those root beer notes that we got on the nose.
Let's talk about the price for a second, because I've found this bottle, I believe this specific bottle, I purchased for $12.
Oof.
It's affordable, extremely affordable. And for what it produces in the mouth, for what it brings to you as a drinker, hell of a bargain.
Next up is one of the newest and probably the fastest growing categories in whiskey, and that is American single malt. Distilleries across the country have been making incredible single malts for years, but there wasn't a formal definition for what qualified as an American single malt. That's all changed, and the ASM market is chock full of really interesting and unique craft whiskeys.
And if you're wondering what makes it different, bourbon is made primarily from corn, while American single malt is made from 100% malted barley, like most Scotch and Irish whiskeys.
We went with one of the pioneers of the American single malt movement, and that is Westland. And I think it's one of the best bottles to introduce someone to the category. This particular bottle is a sherry finished one that has been discontinued, but if you can't find it, the flagship also has a sherry finish and it's a pretty good comparison. I really enjoy this one. This is a very nice bottle.
I've definitely not had this one before. I don't know Westland. I've seen them on the shelves. I mean, they're pretty prominent in terms of American single malts, but I've not had them, so I'm curious to try it out.
Yeah, no, oh, smell that.
That is a dark, deep sherry.
Oh, I'm getting so much coffee notes in there, but then it just morphs into those sherry notes.
The coffee note in particular on this is super pleasing. I love coffee. I'm a snob about coffee. That plays so well with the sherry note on this.
Now, if you're drinking the flagship, you're gonna get a little bit of that peat in there as well, but it's pretty light. It's not as prominent. Probably reminds me more of this bottle, their new flagship, than anything else that they had previously. I mean, I'm a sucker for this, man.
And I know slouch. There's a honey note, there's a graham cracker thing in the back.
Yes.
There's like a toasted marshmallow thing happening in there.
So the flagship is about $55, maybe a little bit less. So it's not the cheapest, but American single malt typically is not cheap. You're gonna pay around that price point when you're talking about American single malt. What I like about this one is that it doesn't have a ton of smoke, it doesn't have a ton of peat. There's a lot of American single malts that carry a lot of those notes that are very unique and interesting, and I personally love. But again, we're talking about beginner whiskeys. If you can't find the sherry wood because it is discontinued, then definitely the flagship would be the way to go because it does have a lot of the similar notes. We've made it to our final category, and we're about to end this thing with a bang. Now, if you're new to whiskey, you've probably already heard all the horror stories. Iodine, brine, salt, used Band-Aid. Of course, I am talking about peat.
Peat is one of the most misunderstood flavors in whiskey. Some people absolutely love it, others can't stand it. But either way, It's something every whiskey drinker should experience because there's really nothing else quite like it.
When we were putting this list together, we intentionally didn't choose any one of those really heavy peat monsters. Those whiskeys are incredible, but they can be a little overwhelming if you've never had peated Scotch before, or if you're new to it. So no Lafroig, no Ardbeg, no Lagavulin.
Instead, we chose Talisker 10. Talisker 10 isn't even from Islay, which is the region most widely known for peat bombs. It's from the unofficial Scotch region called the Islands. The peat is there, but it isn't as overwhelming as it is in bottles like Lafroig or Ardbeg 10.
Man.
Ham.
Yes. I'm getting like Hawaiian pineapple slash ham slash spam note. You know what I mean?
This is not the Band-Aid note of my dreams, but my dreams aren't for everyone. This, on the other hand, is peat with some robustness that comes from not a swamp, maybe?
No, not a swamp.
It's
more like a forest, maybe a beach note, like we talked about in our other video, Jim. It's like you're walking through a forest.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you open up the leaves and you see there's a beach right there. And there's a guy roasting marshmallows in the distance.
100%. There's a sea breeze on there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite notes of recent memory for peated things is sea breeze. But it has to come from something that has that kind of that maritime, that oceanside influence. This absolutely has that.
I am getting a lot of the same notes on the palate. I'm getting that grilled pineapple. I am getting the sea breeze, I'm getting the maritime, and I absolutely love that. It gives you that peat, it gives you that smoke, but it's not so overpowering and overwhelming that it turns you off completely from it. If you drink this and you enjoy it, then try Lafroig, then try Ardbeg, and see how you feel about those. But this one to me is a perfect balance of peat, of smoke, of maritime, of fruit and pineapple. You get a lot of notes that are palatable and they're very enjoyable, but they're also a little intense. So this isn't for everybody, but if you want to go the route of trying something peaty, start with something like Talisker 10 and then work your way to something with a little bit more peat. Once you know what styles you enjoy, that's when the real whiskey journey begins. And hopefully these bottles will give you some options to try that aren't the same whiskeys that everybody recommends.
Now we want to hear from you. What's the bottle that made you fall in love with bourbon, Scotch, Irish whiskey, rye, or any other category?
Drop it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to check out barrelhunters.com.
Until next time, cheers.